Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa, an expert in nothing that gives me the credentials to give you my opinion on the news that is going on today that affects us all as Americans. I can care about the French. I don't care about the French. Today is May 15th, 2026. This is episode 71 and will be listed as Incredible Lying Democrats. It's actually a week type in review, a little bit. And then I'll also be speaking on President Trump's China visit and the successes and the pitfalls and just my spin on those events. There's some things I'm not really crazy about that the president is doing. Of course, also we'll be talking about, Powell and the gone and a new player in the Federal Reserve. So we can go on from there. Of course, this is a conservative-leaning podcast. I am a Republican. I am a conservative. I'm a Federalist, not an independent or anything like that. Solidly behind the Republicans when it makes sense. If they don't make sense, I'm going to say, you're nuts, or you're way off base, or how do you think you're going to accomplish that? So I use common sense. Common sense. A good idea is a good idea, no matter who brings it. As long as it's feasible, as long as it's doable, as long as it stays within the confines of the law and our system of government, I'm all for it. Bring it on. But if it's a pie-in-the-sky wish, then that's a wish. It's not a solution to problems that are facing us that need addressing. So, all right. I start off with Schumer, and this is going to be reading off a script here, for the most part. Senator Schumer on the Senate floor this week blasted the Trump administration for the high cost Americans are facing, and of course blames President Trump. And that's a reasonable thing to do. President Trump's in power. There's the guy. All right, we did it with Biden. So I don't mind Schumer doing this, because that's politics. And in politics, lying comes with the territory. But they're bringing it to new heights. While we all see and feel the increased costs on just about everything, the real reason is not the current administration, but the prior administration. And yeah, I get it. 2 years of this administration, it's easy to blame the last one, but the truth is out there if you really look. And we do. The cost of protecting our borders, the cost of ICE, is directly tied to the incompetence of the Biden administration and its lack of acting as the law required him to, the Constitution required him to, and policies that were approved and standard operating procedures. He just threw them away. Now we're playing catch up. 1.6 million court-ordered deportations from the Biden administration that was never done, not to mention the actual illegals. We have no idea how or when they snuck into America. Right? So when Trump was running for election, he said, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to go after this. I'm going to fix this injustice done to the American citizens. We don't know where any of them are today because of catch and release. Thank you. So we must question everyone that fits the description of an unknown illegal, the cost of which is staggering. To go now and have more ICE agents, more patrols, more everything, dealing with corralling these people that the Democrats allowed to blend into the landscape. This was very cleverly done by the Democrats. Hide them in plain sight. So now, who are the people we're looking for? Mexicans, South Americans who have Indian blood in them, and they look they look dark. So you have people on the corner. They're going after dark people. Yeah, well, we're going after everyone. If I stop someone with blonde hair and blue eyes, and they speak with an accent, they might be questioned by ICE. But if I go into a predominantly Mexican or Spanish or Latin America or South America neighborhood, well, chances are I'm going to catch someone. Yeah, I'm going to go after those people. I'm going to stop them, which they're legally allowed to do. And so the cost of doing that takes away money that could have been used for other social programs. Schumer never mentions that in his speech. He never mentions that we are here because of the prior administrations, not counting Trump. And that includes Republicans too. I have no problem saying that. Schumer never mentions that part. Never mentions the billions spent on illegals for housing, food, transportation, education, medical, and legal fees that are taken away from our people. That money has to come from somewhere and has to be allocated. Remember, they took it from FEMA. They weren't supposed to be doing that. And Doge recovered a lot of that money. Remember Doge? And this is just one program. DHS is just one program. We're not talking about all the other programs. And we had Schumer and his crew, they blamed the Republicans. They could have voted for this. There were enough Democrats that could have overrode any Republican obstacle to it, but they didn't. They did not. So they shut the government down. And guess what? Come September, they're going to shut it down again. Because Schumer said that's exactly what he's going to do. We are not yet discussing the cost to cities and towns that had to manage illegals. And so it's just not federal money, it's state money. And these states, of course, ask the federal for help and everything else. And, the people, Democrats on the Hill, are just, sure, let me reach into this bucket and give you more. Right? Right? You don't think that wasn't happening? Schumer, and also Elizabeth Warren, who opened her mouth up, failed to mention these costs for added police, courts, and personnel needed to address illegals. No mention about that. The hundreds of billions of dollars. No mention of that. Just Trump bad. Trump. And you could point your finger at Trump because he is sitting there. But blow the smoke away from that, and you see where the real problem laid. It was 16 years of Democratic control. To 4 years of Republican control. Now, add 2 more years to that. But we're playing catch up. And you have to pay for that. In detention costs, in police costs, in housing, in courts, in everything, in feeding them and taking care of them. That money comes from somewhere, and it's being pulled out of social programs that could have been used to help citizens, but now are going that way. Why? Because President Trump won the election on fixing these problems, and it was going to cost money. He said that from the beginning. This is going to cost oodles of money. Democrats refuse to discuss the crimes being committed by illegal that are in gangs. Shoplifting, stores, and businesses that had to close down and go, we can't do business in the city anymore. Just can't do it. People are coming in here, they're robbing us blind, they're assaulting people, they're selling drugs in the front of of our businesses. You know what? It's just simpler for me to close this business down, lay everyone off, and move out. And what do you think is happening? What do you think has happened to CVS's and Walgreens and stores that were in these areas that said, I just can't do this anymore? Look at the state of malls today in a lot of these blue cities. The amount of open real estate in these malls because businesses are going, we can't sustain this. I can't have shoplifters come in here and they look and they know nothing can be done about it. And if we try to grab them, oh my God, it's a mortal sin. Because the Democrats have made it ridiculously hard for the police to go in there and enforce. You know, and now you have people reversing themselves and going, well, we're going to fix that. Too late. Those businesses are gone. They're not coming back. They are not coming back. Not while you people are in power in those states. Not happening. They're moving to Texas, where everyone else that had any brains and the ability to move away are moving to Florida, Texas, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. They're just getting out of town. You know, because it's lawless. And the Democrats did that. They did that. They will not discuss the violent repeat offenders who are illegals and who the courts refuse to notify ICE of who these people are and detain them for ICE. The police, nope, we can't. We're being ordered by our government, that we can't take this action. You had a judge in Wisconsin that tried to scurry them out the back door and then lied. She's going to go to jail. Hundreds of murders, if not thousands of murders, and tens of thousands of people that were physically injured by the acts of illegals. Not to mention the cost to insurance companies, to personal property, to automobiles by these roving gangs of illegals. And they go, no, that's very small percentage. No, it's not. Because these states, take Washington, D.C., lied about these incidences in the police reports. They fired top people because they lied. They misrepresented the numbers that were there. Now, I don't blame Joe Biden when he came out and said, Washington, D.C. is safe. What are you talking about? Because they were relying on numbers that people were lying to. But the people around Biden knew damn well those numbers were false. They didn't care. And Biden was just reading off a flashcard. That's all he was doing. He had no idea. He was lied to. And they lied about the president. They lied about everything. It is a party of liars. And as I said before, I expect politicians to lie, to make promises they know they can never keep, that are unattainable. I expect some of that. Trump saying, the birthrights. People are saying, yeah, that can never happen. Well, I'm not saying it can't happen, but it might be unattainable. The courts might turn around and go, no, you can't do that. And, stop his executive order through the Supreme Court, and that can be done. But they don't talk about the crime. They don't talk about people murdered. And you have these people crying, Schumer, we got to protect these people. And he doesn't care. He has police protection. Nancy Pelosi lives in a gated community. Waters doesn't live anywhere near where she represents. Pelosi at least lives in San Francisco, and she could look out her window and see the garbage that's been going on. Yet she doesn't care. Every other person cares because they got to live and walk through that garbage. She has Secret Service, she has private cars, she has everything. She doesn't have to put up with that nonsense. And even San Francisco now is saying, well, hold it a bit. Because the businesses are fleeing out of there. It's an exodus out of California. It's an exodus out of the metropolitan areas of California, where it's just lawless. And you can't imagine, just the people that have been, families that have been affected by these attacks. And yet, Democrats sit there and blame Trump. And Schumer and Jeffries continue to fight to keep illegal criminals and undocumented persons in America at our cost. Schumer and Jeffries lied about the Supreme Court interpretation of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, saying married women would lose the right to vote and black voters could be barred from voting in certain areas. Absolute lie. Absolute 100% lie. And the media ran with this. And every sane person who understood the Constitution understands how a marriage works. And, they just sit there and go, what are you talking about? And then, of course, now you don't hear that. You don't hear that coming from them because it was so ridiculous and so easily looked into to go, no, that can't happen, or that will not happen. You know, are some people denied voting? Absolutely, it happens. Someone makes a mistake. Someone goes, nope, you're in the wrong line. You got to go over there, and they really should have been in that right line, and that can happen. But as a institutional norm, no, doesn't happen. People being arrested by ICE who should not be arrested, does it happen? Yes, it happens every day in America with police. And yeah, it's a terrible thing to have happen. And it could cost someone their job. It could cost someone money to get themselves out of a situation that they should never have been in. It does happen. But it's a minute percentage. And I realize if it's happening to me, it's not minute. I'm there with you. But it does happen. And to say, no, that doesn't happen. No, it was like the Democrats saying there was no voter fraud, and then you find out there's been voter fraud. Well, we went to, really on a, it's so fractional. Yes, I agree with you. It's so fractional. But yeah, there is voter fraud. It does happen. The police do make mistakes. It does happen. Our system has a lot of checks and balances in it, and the wheel of justice does turn slowly, unless you got the bucks. I'm with you there. I get it. But it does work. But they don't talk about that. They don't talk about those numbers being so minute. The liberal media ran with these stories and still making false claims about it today. That, you sit back and you laugh and you go. And talk shows, the View, not News with a View. Different. The View. I mean, those ladies are just, and they don't have to be. It is a talk show. It's not the news. It's just them, jibber jabbering. Jeffries and Democrats had floated the possibility that Virginia remove their Supreme Court justices so the state can implement new congressional district maps that the state Supreme Court said ruled invalid because of violations of their own constitutions. So you have Jeffries screaming about having to protect democracy. I have to protect democracy. We have to go out there, look at what's going on. And in the same breath, he goes, well, let's get rid of these judges and everything, and then we can do what we want to do. See, that's where I said Jeffries is right about democracy. It's mob rule. We don't have a democracy. We have a republic that has democratic processes in it. Huge difference. This freaking moron doesn't want you to think that. And I try not to put emotions into it, but when you have people in powerful positions like Jeffries and DeLauro, who have no idea what the law is. And if they do, they just set it aside because it doesn't conform to their agenda. And they make these statements that are so ridiculous. And actually, race baiters, Jeffries is a race baiter, as is Waters, as is Pelosi, as is Schumer, Green, and the only one that's not to me is a race baiter is AOC. Don't like her politics, get rid of her, but she doesn't go down that road. Neither does some other Bernie Sanders doesn't go down that road. He'll talk about the inadequacies and the inequities and things like that, but he's not a race baiter. We've seen that President Trump was correct in his first months in office investigating widespread fraud in our agencies and in state audits. Doge was correct in pointing out this fact, yet Democrats won't mention this fact. Democrats won't mention that when Doge, remember they said $1 trillion out there in fraud, maybe more. And we're only hitting the surface. Lies. Yes, we know there's waste in government. Schumer said that. We understand there's waste, but we don't have to cut these agencies. We don't have to do this. Well, money has to come from somewhere, folks. And you cut the fat, and then you cut the flesh, then you cut the bone, and you know you've gone too far. But they don't mention that. They don't mention that Doge found Social Security issues. Doge found FEMA issues. Doge found EBT issues. Doge made states look into their welfare programs and said, well, give us the information on your EBT. And then you find out people from other states were collecting EBT in their states through the same program. Kentucky, a red state. And I'm not saying that this is all blue states. And I've said this before on my podcast, and I'll say it again. Fraud is not about being red or blue. It's all about the color of green. And any state that says there's no fraud going on, now you step aside. I'm going to look over there. Because for you to make that type of statement, you can't. It just hasn't been discovered yet. And it hasn't been discovered only because you don't have a process in there to look for it to try to see it. You're just not looking. So, Jeffries has called out the Supreme Court as being invalid and corrupt and has advocated that foot soldiers retake democracy. He said, all means must be examined. Really? All means. This is just more call for violence from the left. They're violent. We have seen that President Trump was correct in all his statements about fraud. He wasn't wrong. Minnesota, tens of billions in fraud. California Medicaid fraud is just the surface of this investigation of hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money. But there's no fraud, right? Illinois, they're next to go under the magnifying glass, as well as many other states. And these are not just words. These are proven fraud cases that is happening every day. And that is money taken away from progressives, liberals, Democrats, conservative, Republicans, MAGA, people that don't care, but taken away from all the taxpayers. And then, even further, taken away from people that could benefit from that money, citizens that could benefit from that. But no, it's going out in fraud, and there's people stuffing their pockets. You don't think so? Look it up. Google it. Grok it. Copilot it. We've seen Jeffries and Raskin question why America would attack Iran as they went on record with, stated Iran posed no military threat to the United States or its allies. Can you imagine making that statement and thinking that America is going to believe that? 47 years of terrorist acts by Iran. 47 years of Americans being killed. Millions of Muslims being killed by proxy, the proxy arm of Iran. The Iranian Revolution, Guard Corps. All that money. How many Israelis have been killed? How many French, English, Europeans, Spain? Right? You think Spain, subway attack. All at the behest of Iran, who funded it. So when you have powerful people like Jeffries and Raskin get up there and go, how can we do this? Yeah, it's real simple. It's not how, it's what took us so long. Right? And now you have, they go, well, Iran still has missiles. Yeah, they still can pack a swing. I wouldn't even say a punch. But I'll touch on that after this. The Democratic Party is rudderless. It has allowed itself to be taken over by socialists that border on communists. And we have Democrats in office that are openly anti-America. They make no bones about it. Openly anti-America. We have Democratic lawmakers who do not know our own laws and policies. It's shameful. It's embarrassing. Now, I don't mind helping people. And there is an offer to Cuba for $100 million in relief, but there are certain things the Cuban government has to do first to get that. And they don't know if they want to do it. But guess what? The Cuban people are hearing this on their radios and hearing it. That they know that there is help for them. A government that, has done great things for their people in the sense of sports, education, medical care. But they also forgot about three very, very basic things: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Empty stomachs. Yeah. They can go without lights. They can go without a job. They can go without a lot of things. They can't go without food and water. And they're now hearing, hey, we can provide you food and water. And we can provide you electricity. And we can help you. But there are certain things we expect from that. That's the way it goes. When you go hand in hand, or you just sit there and starve, let your people starve to death. Because in the end, if they're going to go, they're taking you with them. They know that too. The Cuban military is not going to shoot their own civilians when they come at them in mass like that. They're not going to do it. And the minute that happens, the minute you lose control of your military to keep law and order and everything going and keep the people at some type of satisfaction level, you have a problem. You have a problem. We have seen the media make false statements against Donald Trump, and when Mr. Trump sued these media outlets, which was his right to do, the media screamed censorship, and many uneducated people and politicians echoed that too. No, you're allowed to sue people. And if the court feels that there is a case there civilly, which you do not have to meet such a high bar as in the criminal courts, that's his right to do. And those companies could sue him back. And they might. But this is the right that people, citizens, you and I have that right to do too. We have seen the Democrats lie about the sale of CBS Paramount as a deal made by President Trump for his personal gain, even though the sale had been all but completed during the Biden administration. Right? Forget about that. The Democrats offer no solutions to any of these problems. None. This is because they want to continue the path of Obama and Biden. That is their solution to the problems we are seeing. Democrats do not see a problem with illegals, crime, or deficits because that is their agenda. That is what they want. They don't need a solution. They just want to go back to what was being done before Trump was in office. But they don't understand. That is what got them out of office. What makes them think that somehow going more left is going to work in their favor? It's not going to happen. Unless moderate Democrats running for re-elections or offices distance themselves from these progressive socialists and liberal agendas, they're going to be defeated in any close race. And now with redistricting, which I have said on this program, I don't like the Republicans doing it. I don't like the Democrats doing it. But I also didn't like that they cut out sections to say, this is the black section. So they need representation. You know what happens with that? They make sure that those black people never move out of that area ever. Because if they move out of that and it turns white, it regentrifies, let's say, they lose the vote. They'll vote in a white guy, let's say, a white woman. Just saying. Why do you think they keep those areas poor and uneducated and high crime areas? It's to stay in power. The same Democrats that enslaved these people are doing it again today. And why do you think the Democrats are walking away from a lot of middle-class minorities? Because those middle-class minorities want to keep as much money as they make. They want to pay as little taxes as they humanly need to do. And so what happens? They become Republicans. You don't think so? Look at the 2024 vote. You don't think so, huh? You think I'm making this up and lying to you? I have no need to lie to anyone. I have the facts. And you have the facts too. For now. I don't know what happens in the future with, people not, books, revisionist history. I can't speak for that. I can only speak about the now. All right. The visit to China by President Trump concluded today, and President Xi had said that there was progress made. Trump said he's mulling over some things, but there is progress. There is, China has warned the United States that missteps in handling Taiwan is a flashpoint. And both sides have to be very careful with this and respectful. And the United States never wanted, remember Taiwan was Formosa or something, for a while. But it would be like Long Island succeeding from the United States and forming its own country without the recognition of the United States to say, go ahead, do it. And the United States has said that Taiwan is a province, is a province of China, mainland China. And China goes, well, if that's the case, we have every right to step into these people that are acting against our interests. This is our country. And you cannot argue that logic. You could only argue that they have been autonomous for so long that they're not really part of your country anymore. And because China never acted in a military sense to formally retake those islands after 1949, can you say that takes away their claim? Well, the United Nations didn't think so. The United States conceded that point. So it does have to be handled very delicate. It's very fragile. But if you're going to use the rule of law internationally, what can you say? What can you say? Of course, China has also told the president that it's time to stop this fighting in Iran. And China has gotten on board with the United States to say that strait has to be opened. And if you're stopping Iranian shipping to the ports and maybe, Iran could go tit for tat. Any U.S. ship in that area could come under attack by and seizure by Iran. And, of course, they've tried that, and that has not worked out well for Iran. My belief is that this weekend, fighting will start again. That the United States, if there's no peace agreement that Trump can look at and go, I can live with this. This weekend, the United States and Israel will throw that temporary ceasefire out the window, and they're going to go heavy. The United States is going to go heavy on Iranian assets that are still there, and Israel is going to annihilate resistance coming out of Lebanon. It is not going to be a good time. It's not going to be good for the people of Iran. Because now, Trump, there are some military targets that we could still find and hit and do. But they have no air defense. They have nothing. And everything is a target. Their electric facilities, their water facilities, their food warehouses. This is truly going to turn medieval. And that's going to start this weekend. You wait and see. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. But everything I see, everything that I see happening, the 2 week allowed the United States to move assets around from Europe. And we're taking assets from Europe. And we're repositioning. It gives us 2 weeks instead of 2 days. 3 weeks, whatever the ceasefire. And, you know, you hear the talk, oh, we don't have any missiles left. And let me tell you, we got so many missiles left that that's not even a concern. We have so much fuel left, that's not a concern. So, people that are saying that don't know what they're talking about. And Iran is about probably militarily 70 to 80% degraded. They have some missiles, but they now are lacking the people to maintain it. They are lacking the ability to move these things, these weapons, out into the open to get ready to use them. The drones can go off anywhere. We realize that. But even that, they're running low with that. And you start blowing up people, and people start watching their friends get blown up by it. And you have a military that goes, I don't want to be the next guy. And then you're going to hit areas where people aren't going to have electricity. They're not going to have bridges and roads to go over. And it's going to be bad. And if Iran wants to go down that road, Trump is perfectly willing to lead them down that road. He's also very willing to stop and say, you might want to really rethink this. And some type of mission to China could have been telling China, you take control of the 1,000 pounds of plutonium. I'm going to trust you with it. Because we have a relationship. You have whatever is left of a relationship with the people in Iran. We can't trust Pakistan to do it because Pakistan is proving to be unreliable. But we can trust China. Take possession of those 1,000 pounds of plutonium. And we don't have to do what we're going to do. But if you can't, then it's going to be a very bad day. And China might not. China goes, whoa, whoa, whoa! You want me to take 1,000 pounds of plutonium? Yeah, all right. Then what? We'll worry about that when we get to that. We'll work something out that you and I will be very happy with. If I'm asking you to do this, believe me, there's a big payback here on my part. And I think that's what's going to happen. All right, everyone, this is 50 minutes. I was only going to make this a 35-minute show, but that is what it is. You might be hearing from me tomorrow. Never know. Please give to a charity of your choice. Check the charity out. Don't become a victim trying to help victims. If you're not comfortable with that, please think about giving to a local food bank. They always need food. They always need a monetary donation too. And that goes right into your community. You can actually see it in work. And it's a nice feeling. You could say in your head that those people, they put themselves into that situation and stuff. But if they got children or if they're hungry, help them. And there's a lot of people that need help. And, you know, deep down, we're all good people. Some people, you got to dig a little deeper, but you're good people. Do that. It doesn't hurt anything. Say a prayer. Prayer does work. It does. I'm telling you, it does. Don't be afraid to pray. Just, pray for the right things. I don't pray that I win lottery. If I win lottery, I win lottery. It's because I picked 6 freaking numbers. It isn't because some divine intervention took me there. And I know when to ask. Believe me, I know when to ask. And sometimes you got to look to see what the answer is. You might not recognize it right away. But there's an answer, and it's in front of you. You just got to be willing to see it. That's all. All right, everyone. Please have a safe weekend. Everyone take care. These are difficult times, but when has it not been difficult in one sort or another? Hug one another. Bob in New York, I'll give you a call later on tonight. My buddy, my pal. Oh, we argue all the time about politics. But Bobby is a good, true friend. All right, everyone, be safe, be good, as I push the magic button to fade to black.